Ich habe Angst, dass das Spiel sich zu viel vornimmt und dann wieder nichts, also ne, nichts Richtiges delivert. Da habe ich ein bisschen Angst vor, weil... Wie wäre es denn mit, ich weiß, Survival Games, aber 10 brand new Survival Games that are trying something new. Survival Games. So.
We talk about
ja, Simply wollten wir auch noch gucken. Ach Mann, es ist aber so viel. Okay, ihr müsst mich schon dran erinnern.
Survival games all the time here at gameranx, and today we're taking a look at 10 upcoming survival games that are a bit different or trying something new. Now, please note, we're not really going to talk about sequels or anything like, you know, Frostpunk or Ark 2, just some fresh stuff here. We got a lot of cool games to talk about, so let's get started off with number 10. Pioneer is a wild one right out of the gate. I mean, look at the gameplay here. It seems really impressive, right? This is actually a super ambitious indie project seemingly being put together by a very small team. Details are still kind of slight, but they have outlined certain combat and player movement elements, as well as just kind of the overall concept. And what it kind of is like the Metro series, the Stalker series, and maybe even a little Escape from Tarkov had a baby with a survival game. The concept seems awesome, seems like a no-brainer, total winner. It's just really coming down to whether or not this team can pull it off. From what we've seen, the combat does look pretty cool against a lot of humanoid enemies in some pretty dense environments.
Single player,
where you scrounge for items to craft cooler weapons with tons of customizable capabilities for all of them. A little bit of a blend of sci-fi with the weapons themselves, getting a little more experimental. And just everything I've seen of this one so far, I've been loving it. It was announced, really shown off like 2 years ago now at this point. And with these small team, really insane looking projects, we've talked about many of these before, and sometimes we've been fooled, other times we've been completely blown away. So we don't know for sure about Pioneer yet, but we're keeping it on our radar just because the concept, the mashup of genres, the inspirations is just too good to ignore. Now, next over at number 9, we have The Lord of the Rings, Return to Moria. This definitely seems like the kind of Lord of the Rings game that should have already existed. You play as a group of dwarves who return to Moria to reclaim it from the evil that's taken it over. As you probably know, Moria was an impressive, prized possession of the dwarves until some certain events happened that left some people high and dry, let's just say that. So now you're jumping back and making it awesome again. Now, in typical dwarf fashion, you'll be mining for resources and then using those resources to craft new and better gear, as well as excavate and rebuild Moria from the ground up with some good old base building. That base building in particular has us interested because it's not like Valheim where you're just like building in a big open space or like Minecraft or anything. No, here you're building in a condensed, contained mine area, which could lead to some really fun and interesting building and just scenarios. Now, you'll also be hunting and fighting off hordes of orcs and other creatures that lurk down here. And best of all, it's cooperative, so you can get together with up to apparently 8 players and just take back Moria together. This is
8 Spieler? Boah, ich finde für Tobi und mich gerade, ich finde für Tobi und mich gerade so viele Spiele für nach 7 Days. Irgendwie dachte ich zuerst so, was spielen wir denn danach? Man weiß noch nicht genau. Jetzt finde ich aber dauernd Spiele irgendwie, die wir danach spielen könnten. Wir müssen bald mal langsam zum Ende kommen.
Another one where the concept is just unique enough, but really cool. Obviously, the property of the Lord of the Rings is something that we're super into, so this could be a match made in heaven. Next over at number 8, we have a game called Earth Revival, which on the surface might look a little generic, but it's actually got a lot more going on. This has been teased for quite some time now. It was originally called Project Revival, but now it is officially this big, crazy sci-fi survival game. It's fully multiplayer, it's open world, it's got base building elements, PvE, Craft.
Wenn ich so die Rüstung hier sehe und so, dann denke ich mir schon wieder, nee, komm, ach bitte, please no. Ich weiß nicht, was ich sagen soll. Auch so generisch, bunt, Neon, bla, leuchti-beuchti, weiß nicht, wie ich das nennen soll, aber einfach auch schon so, irgendwie over.
Player, it's open world,
macht's direkt für mich
building elements, PvE,
sexy aus,
crafting,
viel Spaß
all the
dabei.
stuff you'd expect.
Für mich ist es direkt
with a really
uninteressant.
cool sci-fi sheen to it all. It's in third-person shooting as well, which is something you don't see every day with these types of games. I've seen some websites, including PC Games N, kind of dub it Destiny 2 meets Fallout, which is kind of clever if you think about it, and definitely is going to appeal to some people because like it has all the Destiny 2 multiplayer stuff, like raids, competitive stuff, endless dungeons, all that, and then just all the building, fun, crafting stuff of a Fallout game. But on top of that, it also just looks really cool. It's got a little bit of a different visual style spin to it. Like I said, seemingly very shiny, very high quality, a lot of cool sci-fi weaponry and armor going on, and this is going to be available on both PC and mobile, so I'm very curious to see how they monetize this thing. Still a lot of questions, but so far it seems like the survival community has been kind of into it, so maybe it's worth keeping an eye on.
So
Next up at number 7, we have Wizard with a Gun. This is a fresh new survival game simply because it's called Wizard with a Gun. But seriously, actually it does seem really cool, from the incredibly striking art style to the actual gameplay itself. It's an online cooperative sandbox survival game where you play with friends and venture out of your wizard tower to find stuff for crafting and developing and growing as a little wizard character, and of course killing enemies. The cool thing is that all of the wizardry aspects are highly customizable, from actually creating your wizard to experimenting with different types of spells and magic to create more powerful, devastating effects and just be more effective against enemies. The twist though is that messing around with magic is actually pretty dangerous, so you have to really kind of trial and error experiment and sometimes learn the hard way while you're making cool new magical abilities. It's a really cool spin on magic weapon customization that I haven't seen before, and to do it with friends in this cool sandbox survival style just really works for me.
Das ist bei mir leider eine persönliche Eigenschaft. Das betrifft nicht die Qualität des Spiels oder sonst irgendwas. Bei mir ist eine persönliche Eigenart. Ich kann mich mit den wenigsten Cell-Shading-Titeln anfreunden. Ich bin kein großer Freund von Cell-Shading. Also, ihr werdet das bestimmt gerade als cool empfinden und das irgendwie sieht gut aus und bla bla bla. Ich finde es zu dunkel und das ist einfach, weiß ich nicht. Ich habe keine Ahnung. Don't Starve, cool, ja, bestimmt toll. Keine Ahnung, habe ich auch nicht gespielt leider. Aber ich kann mich mit diesem Stil hier einfach nicht anfreunden.
Being published by Devolver Digital, you know they definitely have a good track record for finding weird, quirky, unique, and fun games. And as of right now, we just know it's releasing sometime in 2022.
Sieht auch aus wie ein gutes Spiel.
Next, over at number 6, we have Forever Skies. Now, here, you're returning to Earth hundreds of years after it was devastated by this disaster that left the surface covered in a layer of toxic dust.
Haben wir angespielt.
So, you land in an airship that then you can customize and build up, as it acts as kind of like your lab, your workshop, your home base. And obviously, of course, you'll also be using it for getting around, which is just a very cool spin on the thing. Now, as is in the case with a lot of survival games, you'll be scavenging materials from ruins that were left behind, but a lot of it is built up really high to escape the layer of toxic dust sitting on the surface, and it just looks really cool and kind of unique. Now you can also descend down below the dust where things are different and much more strange. Now, I don't know why, but this is definitely giving us kind of like Subnautica vibes, but instead of underwater in a submarine, you're up above the clouds in a spaceship. Definitely unique enough for us, and it's coming sometime in 2022. Next up at number 5, we have the Sengoku Dynasty. Dude, this one was not on my radar until making this video, and now I am so glad it is. What this essentially is kind of like a typical survival game set in feudal Japan, but with like a sense of adventure to it. You go from like lowly peasant to slowly building up your own village and becoming a leader, and you do it how you want. Do you want to be a badass warrior? Do you want to be a craftsman or a religious monk? The game is going to apparently give you a lot of different choices and ways to approach things while you're going out in the world, foraging for food, to survive, to build for your family, and then a greater community filled with apparently unique NPCs, and kind of go from zero to hero, or like just simple guy to a badass legend. Now, this is incredibly ambitious. The publisher behind this does have a good track record, but a lot really has to hit for this to work. You know, it has to be interesting, the character building has to be in-depth, the combat has to be engaging, and also...
Ich hoffe, es wird so wie Medieval Dynasty in Japan. Hoffe ich wirklich. Also ich würde vom Zusehen und hier, wie die aufbauen und so, würde ich behaupten, das wird ähnlich. Wobei ich glaube, dass du hier die ganze Siedlung eventuell aufbaust oder so. Ich weiß nicht genau, in welcher Rolle du bist, ob du dann wirklich selber Bäume fällen musst und dann alles selber machen musst, wie bei Medieval Dynasty. Das weiß ich nicht, weil hier die ganzen NPCs ja bauen. Und bei Medieval musst du alles selber machen. Alles. Jeden Scheiß. Inzwischen vielleicht nicht mehr, das weiß ich nicht. Oder halt bis du halt Leute akquirierst für dein Dorf, die kannst du natürlich auch bla. Wie es in der Praxis aussieht, weiß ich nicht.
So they gotta just nail, like, you gotta really feel for this village you build up. You wanna feel like you actually have to fight for it. I really hope this game nails it, because just the idea on paper is absolutely incredible. And the glimpses that we've gotten of the game so far do look pretty gorgeous, but you can't really judge it until you fully get your hands on it. All we know right now is that Sengoku Dynasty is slated for the first quarter of 2023. Next up at number 4, we have Night is Coming, which combines survival elements with a city building game, which is perfect for me personally. Now, the game is inspired by Slavic mythology, and you'll spend your time doing survival game stuff, building up and upgrading your settlement and settlers to take on and withstand these hordes of creatures that will come out at night. And by the way, all of the monsters look really, really cool. Incredibly cool. A lot of them look straight out of The Witcher, which is legit. But each settler is also a unique individual with different abilities and a cool look and needs. And there are also heroes that you can recruit to fight alongside you. You want to make sure you're ready for winter, because that's when the enemy hordes become even more powerful. You'll get hit with blizzards and dropping temperatures. So you won't only be battling monsters, but also the climate as well, in just like a good combo of a survival sim. Like if it's nailed gameplay wise, this could scratch a lot of itches. Night is Coming is slated for 2022.
Das ist aber nicht raus, ne?
At number 3, we have Void Train. Now, if you're looking for a game, if you really came here for a survival game that is just weird and different, I'd say look no further with Void Train. This thing is wild. Now, we don't know a ton about it, but the basic gist is that you're kind of on like a traditional old school style train. You're on a track, but that track is kind of just like you're cruising through an interdimensional void. And the game is based around you building up the train and keeping the train alive, where sometimes you're gonna need to go out on a tether and fly out into the void while the train is moving to fight enemies and collect stuff. Along with that, it seems like you're going to end up in different dimensions where you're going to be able to hop off the train and go wander around and fight enemies and forage for stuff there. It's got a cool kind of slightly steampunk style to it. I'm not sure how the combat's gonna feel so far. It does look a little rough. A lot of the concepts look a little rough here, but this is another one where in theory it is an absolutely perfect idea and a great creative evolution for a survival game. And there's a lot of people out there that really love trains too, so this could definitely work for them. As of right now, Void Train doesn't have a release date, but you can wish list it on Steam at least and keep an eye on it, because I know we certainly are. Now down to number 2, we have Stranded: Alien Dawn. Now you might remember this game from a pretty recent trailer that was really stunning. Apparently this is a planet-based survival sim where you crash land on a planet and it's up to you to survive. So you're not necessarily completely primitive. You do have some tools at your disposal. You are capable people, and it seems like eventually you can build some pretty impressive things on a really beautiful alien planet. It kind of reminds me of like the opening minutes to the more recent Buzz Lightyear movie, but the game also is going to focus a lot around farming, but also managing the needs of your other survivors. So not only are you going to be building and strengthening your own settlement to benefit you and your farm and your survival and, you know, defending yourself from enemies and stuff like that, but you're apparently also going to be dealing with hostile climate and constantly changing weather. And I think what this game really has going for it is just the really unique creature and plant life, just stuff we haven't really seen before. So it's going to be fun to kind of have a low-key farming sim game where you barely even know what you're growing in the first place. This game, for what it is, just seems like a really badass combo of a bunch of different survival game staples, but in a way we haven't quite seen before. It doesn't have a release date, but we do know that early...
Nein, ist es nicht, zumindest nicht auf Steam. Bin gerade auf der Shopseite von Steam und es sagt Void Train 2023. Ach, auf Epic ist es raus. Oh Gott, ich hab den Epic Games Launcher habe ich schon seit 1000 Jahren nicht mehr gestartet. Okay, ja, vielleicht sollte ich mal bei Epic reinschauen. War Epic Exclusive? Okay, oh, das erklärt einiges. Da habe ich schon seit Ewigkeit nicht mehr reingeschaut. Hupsi. Ja, das ist natürlich unangenehm. Oh, okay, da muss man vielleicht mal...
Early access is coming in the fall of 2022. Now, down to number 1, Nightingale is a really interesting one. Now, while it has your typical survival elements like crafting and base building and hunting for resources, it has a really unique style and environment. Actually, it has multiple unique environments because you're this realm walker and you'll be traveling through trans-dimensional portals looking for this like apparent lost city of Nightingale. It all just sounds really cool from a story and kind of like setup wise. And even without the portal, portal stuff, the game just does look like a lot of fun. You know, building up your own estate and recruiting NPCs to help with gathering resources and production is the kind of survival stuff that we really...
Ich habe Angst, dass das Spiel sich zu viel vornimmt und dann wieder nichts, also nichts Richtiges delivert. Da habe ich ein bisschen Angst vor, weil es sieht alles sehr cool aus und auch die Ideen, die haben, sind auch sehr, sehr gut, aber es hört sich zu ambitioniert an. Aber deswegen, ich bin ein bisschen skeptisch. Ich würde es wahnsinnig gerne ausprobieren. Ich hoffe, es wird toll.
Really find the most addictive, and the combat seems fun too. You'll be making use of a variety of different melee weapons and really wild-looking guns in first-person combat. Nightingale also, interestingly enough, is going to make use of these realm cards, which you can use to change up the procedural generation of all the realms you'll be traveling through to kind of get what you need. But from a style and gameplay perspective, it just seems pretty unique and interesting, and we're excited to check it out.
Ja.